If you're on a budget, you're gonna wanna cut these 10 cards and play these 10 cards.
And if you don't have a budget, cut these 10 cards and add these 10 cards. And if you don't wanna know why, just click the Moxfield link in the description. It has all of our cuts and adds for high powered and casual.
Aminatou is inherently not a very aggressive strategy. We're gonna wanna control the board pretty heavily. And what she does provide you is ramp and mana. So we need to provide her extra cards to play and a lot of removal to make sure that we stay ahead of everyone else. The first cut is Burnished Heart. Aminatou already provides us a lot of free mana, and there's just no world in which I'm happy to pay 3 and then 3 to do this effect.
The second cut, unfortunately, is a Duskmourn card, Bottomless Pool, Locker Room. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, we're not doing that, and not doing that often. And Bottomless Pool doesn't read anything like what we need, so cut.
Prognostic Sphinx is a 5-drop, 3/5 flyer that's a creature in an enchantment deck, and it doesn't do anything the turn I cast it.
Read the Bones is a 3-mana sorcery that does scry 2 and draw 2 cards, except it's the first card we draw each turn activates Miracle, and this is sorcery speed.
The 5th card is Starfield Mystic. This is a ramp spell in a deck that's already ramping quite a bit. I need to be giving my commander something it's not already providing me.
The 6th card to cut is Dream Eater. This is always 6 CMC. It's just a 4/3 flyer. It does really nothing to advance our game plan.
Phenomenon Investigators is a cool new card from Duskmourn, but it just doesn't totally fit into our game plan here. I don't want either of those things to happen, so I don't want to draw this card.
Monologue Tax is a 3-mana enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure token. Aminatou is our ramp. We're gonna have plenty of ramp. We don't want this.
It's just never as good as I want it to be. Solemn Simulacrum has been a classic, a staple for a very long time, but the days have kind of moved past when he goes in every deck.
Bajuka Bog is the last and 10th cut. This is a perfectly fine utility land, in fact pretty good in some decks, except this deck has a lot of lands that come into play tapped.
Now that you know what you're not playing, let's get into the good stuff.
Scion of Halaster is a 2-mana background from Baldur's Gate. First card we draw in every turn, it surveils first, which helps us set up our Miracle.
Fealty to the Realm is going to take the biggest thing on the board and make sure it's never attacking me. Even if I don't get Monarch back, it's still doing work hitting everyone who's not me. And it's only going to cost us 1 blue mana.
The third card we're going to add is Thought Render Lamia. It plays so well into our control strategy by limiting the resources available to other people.
The fourth card we're going to add is Likeness Looter. The really cool thing about Miracle is that it's the first card we draw on anyone's turn. So if we can use effects like this to be sneaking around and drawing cards on other people's turns, we're getting that 4 mana discount all the time.
The fifth card we're going to add is Access to Morality. My God, does this play into a whole political system that you've begun, and it basically forces people to kill you in 1 turn, or you just switch your life total with theirs.
Perplexing Chimera is a control shell classic. This card is terrifying. As soon as you have it out, no one wants to play their good stuff, and I'm playing it for 1 mana, absolutely.
I'm taking it back to drawing on opponent's turns with the card that just takes your opponent's draws. Notion Thief is so freaking good in so many scenarios in general, but especially when Miracle can proc on anyone's turn, this card enables even more of that.
At number 8, we got Braid's Arisen Nightmare. In a deck that's focused around a card type that not everyone's playing a lot of, this card is just crazy value. Because if they're playing enchantments, it's Grave Pact, it's Zendikar Resurgent, it's Smothering Tithe.
Yeah.
They don't want to sack that. That's not going anywhere. So this card is drawing me 3 cards a turn and making sure I never run out of gas.
Our 9th card to add is Starfield of Nyx. When you play this card, your whole game plan switches. You're going for the win at this time. I love the idea of this card as a win con.
And since we're playing so many enchantments and not a whole lot of creatures, there's going to be a lot of attackers coming our way, which means board wipes are going to keep us safe. My top pick is Promise of Loyalty. It's going to make sure that we keep Aminatou to keep the value rolling and that everyone else can't be hitting us. And now for lands. We're going to take out Terramorphic, Evolving, and all 3 of the guild bounce lands. They're nice to have, but this deck, even after removing those, is going to have 9 lands that must come in tapped, and that's just way too slow.
As for lands we're adding, we're going to add Roadside Reliquary, which lets us draw a card on an opponent's turn. Study Hall, which lets us scry a little bit at the top, see what's there. It also comes into play untapped. Sajiri Shelter, which helps us protect Aminatou, but also helps us with land. MDFCs are always great. Castle Lochthwain, one of the best utility cards for black, lets us draw a card on an opponent's turn. All right, if you don't have a budget and you really want to beat your friends, there's 10 more cards we want to add and cut, and
there's some juicy stuff. First cut is Return to Dust. This is a solid removal spell, getting rid of 2 things, but 4 mana is just a little too much for that at this point.
Second cut is Life Insurance. We don't really kill things a lot on the board, and it relies on non-token creatures dying.
Third cut is Aminatou's Augury. This is a pretty cool spell and obviously on flavor, but there's no way for us to discount this. We're paying the full 8 every time, and so there's a lot of points where I'm not going to be happy to have this in my hand.
Arvinox the Mind Flail is a 9/9 huge beater. It doesn't always hit. It takes a while to ramp up. It's just overall a miss.
Our 5th cut is Mind Stone.
It only taps for a colorless, and ideally we're reducing our enchantments to just their colored pips. 6th card is Cramp Fence and Access Maze for just an effect that happens on our turn. We want this to happen whenever. If it did, obviously include, but right now it's just a very narrow miss, but for a very important reason.
Our 7th cut is Nightmare Shepherd. We're not gonna plan on any of our non-token creatures dying, so I don't really want this card more often than not.
Our 8th cut is Metamorphosis Fanatic. We, again, are not looking to play creatures. That's the only reason this misses. It's thematic. We like Miracle, but miss.
Our 9th cut may look a little weird. It's Ponder. It's drawing us a card as a sorcery, which means we've already drawn our card for turn, and there's no way to miracle off the Ponder itself. It can stack the top 3 cards of our deck, but we're drawing one of those, so it's really only digging us 2 cards to set up, and we might not see an enchantment in those 2 cards.
Our last card is Spirit Sister's Call. If we're just +0 on the effect anyway, we sacrifice enchantment, bring back an enchantment, and that's just not impactful enough. So now we know what we're taking out. Let's figure out all the cards that have no budget, but that are going to accelerate your game plan like crazy.
First up, we've got a card called Penance. We can choose any card from our hand and put it on top of our library. This means we're drawing all those huge enchantments that we don't want to pay full price for, and we are stacking it perfectly to miracle into.
The second card we're adding is Limdol's Vault. This card is so insane in this deck.
Oh yeah, we're getting the good stuff with that. Teferi Master of Time is one of the strongest planeswalkers in the game. There is no downside.
We draw a card at the opponent's turn.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
nuts. Fairy Mastermind typically enables miracles on our opponent's turn, which is so sweet.
Our 5th add is to put another win con in this deck, and Hallowed Haunting is gonna get us there. This card is gonna give us big old creatures every time we're casting an enchantment, and before you know it, they're gonna have Flying and Vigilance and just be ripping people's faces off.
And our 6th card, and I'm not gonna stop with drawing cards in opponent's turn because it's so good in our deck, is Ledger Shredder. And normally we would just put these cards as honorable mentions, but these cards individually are so powerful, and in this deck, with miracles on anyone's turn, you have to include it.
Number 7 is Virtue of Persistence. The new Virtue cycle from Wilds of Eldraine is pretty sick. We're not going to be playing the best creatures, but somebody is, and this is going to be pulling the best stuff out of other people's graveyards every single turn.
Scroll Rack. It has no investment whatsoever, being 2 generic mana and 1 generic mana to use its ability, and it just lets you set up miracles like you would not believe.
The 9th card may surprise you. We think the Meat Hook Massacre is good.
We broke it.
Cool part about Aminatou's discount is that with an X value card, you can choose the full value, or you can choose 3 to keep your Aminatou. And -3/-3, everything on the board at instant speed on someone else's turn.
With just 2 black mana. And our last card, it's Replenish. It's so simple. Sorcery, 4 mana, get back all your enchantments onto the battlefield. Why wouldn't you play this? This card is just nuts.
There's some big changes, but this is gonna make the deck work a lot better.
The game plan is just gonna be way more concise, and you can stop watching now because we did that pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
bye-bye.
Are you
Bye-bye.
still? Anybody?
Bye.